And we're here live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Office Hours, a weekly live show brought to you by the team at Bunker Labs, a national network of veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to helping our ecosystem grow. I'm your host, the one and only Iron Mike Steadman, coming to you from Newark, New Jersey, joined by my co-host straight from Detroit. Joined by our guest today, Valonda Anderson, coming straight from Detroit, and my co-host, Amy Mortensen. What's going on, y'all? How'd the weekend treat you?
Good.
The weekend was wonderful, really. I mean, it's winter time again, so little wet, little snow here and there.
Yeah,
But it'll make us enjoy the spring. Mhm.
love it. Well, I'm so happy to finally have Valonda on the platform. Her and I have got to interact in person quite a bit at some of these Bunker Labs ambassador fly-ins, and she's doing a lot of exciting things with her small business, Sweet Potato Delights. But before we do that, I'm going to pass it over to Amy to give any updates that are taking place in the bunker. And shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to Montclair. I see you. Good morning, Linda, Chris. I see y'all. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Josh Weldon, we see you.
Okay. Hold on one sec. Sorry. Okay. So a couple things this week. We've got a new blog post, Veteran Entrepreneur Spotlight on the blog on Daniel Lee. Daniel's an Army veteran, opened his fast casual pasta shop in Philadelphia during COVID, and he competed in Veteran Shark Tank. So you can read all about that on the blog. And then he was also a guest on Office Hours before. So it's been a while. But yeah, if you want to read more about what it's like to open a restaurant during COVID, check that out. And then we've also got on the blog our conference and pitch competitions for 2023. So get your calendar booked up with that. And then big news, applications open tomorrow for veterans and residents. So the next cohort starts in July, and you can fill out the interest form today or wait till tomorrow and then apply. We're also going to have Xavier Clark, the director of growth programs here at Bunker Labs. He's going to be on March 21st to talk about the Veterans and Residents program and do like a Q&A kind of thing. So you can check that out. More information on Veterans and Residents on the website at bunkerlabs.org/veterans-in-residents. And I will put those links in the chat when I get a sec.
Love it. Urshel, what's up, man? Good to see you. Appreciate y'all tuning in. And so without further ado, Valonda, tell everybody about yourself and what you got going on at Sweet Potato Delights.
Okay, Dr. Valonda Anderson. I'm a nutrition and retired from the city of Detroit to be the manager of the WIC program, which is an awesome program when we're talking about food and nutrition to young people, and they're supporting their parents. Sweet potato vegan, sweet potato-based baked goods and grab-and-go items. Focused on the lane of grocery stores and things like that. But pandemic, everybody shifted and did some different things, and so it took us down the lane of the rest of my wholesale customers are restaurants and cafes and special events like farmers market season is always amazing season in the Southeast Michigan area that's on tap for this year. I think it'll be all these 5. And then I tie this can to in and about the community, in the ecosystem, foods. We source our ingredients from farms like D-Town Farmers, where we get our garlic, and Oakland Avenue Farmers, where we get our when that's in season. And writing work in terms of philanthropic efforts. That every year, December, the whole month of December, we're dropping cookies to various nonprofits, service veterans and service young people.
That's great. Now, what was your military background?
So my military background, but as the universe would have it, that's where I got the option to further define what lane that I wanted to show up in. As an entrepreneur, I thought was my assignment to the work that I'm going to really have fun with. And I got when I was stationed in California, and I was one of two female. But at Oakland Army Base, they had mixed. It was half civilian, military, and they wanted to do an exercise class for the women, and they wanted somebody from the MP because, of course, being an MP, they knew we were going to be in. Got the opportunity to do that, and that really just started kind of to where I find myself now as a food entrepreneur, which was not in my vision then.
What's been the hardest part thus far of getting Sweet Potato Delights off the ground?
What's been the hardest part? I think the last 18 months or so, it's just been the shifting that has had trying to manage all of pandemic that we don't control with what is happening in the food. The food industry is growing. People are so aware. They want more around their food. They want good food. They want to be able to, the person that is making their food, and they wanted to taste. Yeah. So I think just managing experience, the things we don't control, like pandemic and having to your exposure. So the growth plan got derailed because in the stores, right? And so shifting from being in the store, they don't connect to the brand, and your business afloat. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go to my viewers. If you guys got questions for Verlonda, feel free to go ahead and drop it in the chat. And you can also check out her Instagram, Sweet Potato Delights, to see a visual representation of what we're talking about. I've said this multiple times for people that all entrepreneurship is hard, but there are certain markets that are notoriously hard and certain business models. You know what I mean? Opening up a restaurant, notoriously hard. CPG businesses, notoriously hard. And so that's the kind of space you find yourself in, which is why, building an audience around the product, right? Going to these pop-ups, having people come see you repeatedly. I think one of the things that's probably challenging for your business model too is, just keeping your overhead low and the time as well. So the time to purchase the time to create the food products, right? Then you've got to purchase the equipment and all that stuff. And so, really time is probably a big component.
Oh, time is really huge, because then about when do I onboard staff? Okay. And you need to max out your hours as well as, man side as well. So time is huge, because like you said, you got to shop for the ingredients. You've got to make calls and drop sample packs and talk to owners and so forth and so on. So yeah, it's huge.
Who would you say your perfect customer is for Sweet Potato Delights?
Perfect customer is probably well, they're definitely health conscious, to be able to eat in all the food categories that taste good. So and they're probably 50-ish. They're probably baby boomers. They're all, they may be Gen Z, Gen X. What is behind the baby boomers? the 30-something year olds. Mm-hmm.
Now, for your products, are you making them all out of your house, or are you using a co-working kitchen or somewhere?
Yeah. So in Michigan, they have what's called the cottage law. So when you We want you land and you can operate out of your home. But once you want to put it in grocery, you have to be in a commercial kitchen. And so, we shifted to a commercial kitchen twice a week, and in a shared space. I think there's others that have our license at that particular location. What's exciting for me about it, my second location, but it is a location that is in the community that I live in, community that I'm able to contribute when it comes to economics, because one of the farmers markets that it is on our list is in the community. Picture of what think something that is always, what is the legacy that's being built? How am I creating jobs? We said we wanted to do. Not only do we want to facilitate good food out and about and people to be able to access it, but we want to create jobs. We want to create a pipeline for the food industry. And so where do people hands or their fingers wet about baking, about the art of food industry, and like the culinary school, get practice, to see like, oh, okay, maybe I want to specialize in this. Yeah. So
I think these commercial kitchens, right? These co-working spaces, those excite me. So for all our viewers that are tuning in, one of the things we talk about is for the bootstrapped entrepreneurs in the crowd, which is like 95% of y'all, right? How can we test our products or services on the market without spending too much money? Testing it with a food truck, I'm sorry, a commercial kitchen is a great way. When you start thinking about like even restaurants, starting with a food truck or starting at pop-ups is a great way to get out there, to start getting some sales, and then do the stair step approach to building. And so that's what it sounds like you're doing too. Now, do you have any kind of online presence? Are you selling any of your products or online?
yes, because that is a growth space, and a space that we've members, we've kind of, the ecosystem there is growing to help move us down there. So I'm available now. You can go there. You can shop at sweetpotatodelights.com. Make purchases. The cheesecake, we do not side of Michigan right now, because we still have to work out shipping, because it's a frozen. The cookies, the cakes, those can be shipped anywhere because they ship well, and the it's an easy shipping, the baked goods versus a frozen item.
So, what's keeping you up at night currently with your business? What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
Systems. So where I'm at right now is that to put systems in place. I do have an HR consultant on, and so the putting my hands around and getting out of my own head about the steps, systems I need to put into place as I do things like and keeping the bigger picture in mind is that the long an employee owned company. So what are the choices that I need to make, right? Considering, the onboarding, but also to the fact that we want this to be an employee owned company run by providing opportunities for those that are trying to go down the lane of any, food industry thing. So
Yeah, I love that.
system.
How many employees do you have now?
We have one part-time employee, what do you call it, W-9 consultant type of person, and we're onboarding or in the process. We just, uh, 2
Cool.
part-timers
So
coming up.
for those tuning in, okay, systems is a big part of business, right? And when we first start out, right, people say, oh, you need systems, you need systems. Well, what does it really look like? It looks like a bunch of Google Docs, pen and paper, and document how to repeat stuff. I just had a call with a podcast client, and I said, hey, every time you launch your podcast, you need to do it the same way, right? Every time you do an episode. So what does that mean? That means potentially having that checklist down. And this is something I struggle with, Yolanda, when I first, started, and it's still struggle, because you're still always having to update and tweak stuff. I run a boxing gym in Newark, right? Guess what? I got to register all those kids for USA Boxing. How do I register them? Where do I keep the files? Like all that other stuff. And it can feel pretty overwhelming. But what I will tell you is that there are some great resources out there. One book that I recommend for people is called Run Like Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. If you're a small business entrepreneur, probably around that less than $500,000 in revenue, Mike Michalowicz, and even beyond, is like a great reference point. And I've read Clockwork like twice already, and I'm already doing my like third pass through it. And so it's about capturing the core processes of your business, identifying what he calls your queen bee role. So what's the thing that you can do that no one else can do, right? That drives the most value in your business. For me, it's shaking hands and kissing babies, like, and driving revenue right now currently, right? The rest of my team is really good at uploading the podcast and managing all that other stuff. But when it comes to being Mike Steadman, right, that's a role for me. And so part of what you have to do, Yolanda, is you need to find out what is the thing that you can do that no one else on your team can do to drive value for your business. And I'm willing to bet it might be setting up those strategic channels for Sweet Potato Delights, because a lot of times they're probably going to want to talk to the founder, whether it's that local Whole Foods, that local convention, right? So getting these big accounts, and so what we got to do is we got to get you out of the physical pop-ups as soon as possible, right? So that way, because your time is worth $10,000 a minute. And so when you're at a pop-up, right, standing behind the counter, right, that's something that somebody else can do, right? And even if you do 4 hours and you pay them $100 to do it, but they need to have a system, like you said, of how much is each product, right? And be able to talk about the differences. They need to be able to sell the product, right?
Yes.
So a good system would even be the training. Like, hey, these are the things that we're going to sell at this pop-up, all right? These are the ingredients, yada, yada, yada. These are the common questions that are asked. Because I've been at a pop-up in New York with my girlfriend, and she's left to go to the restroom or something. And then all the guests are asking me. They're like, oh, what can? And I'm just there like lost. And I told her, I was like, hey, we got to have like a menu or something. And then you start to have, a little bit of training. Now, here's what I will say. I've noticed too about food entrepreneurs or product entrepreneurs in general. We come up with this whole spread, right? It's like, oh, we're going to sell 6 different products, right? And each product has its own recipe. You get what I'm saying? Its own ingredients, its own everything. And so what we've done is we've added a lot of complexity in our business. Instead of nailing it down to like 2, at most 3 things that we're going to sell. If it was me, I'd probably sell 1, to be honest. I'd probably sell, because I would have a system down. I would just bake the cookies and sell the cookies. I'd be the cookie guy, right? And then I might introduce a new flavor. And then I might introduce a new flavor. But baking cookies is different from baking cakes, it's different from baking tarts, right? And so you want to streamline that process and say, okay, what is the thing that we can cook and sell over and over again? It's easy for us from a distribution point, a manufacturing point, right? We get good margin on it, right? And we can focus our business around this product, like one product to rule them all. And then as you get really good at selling that over and over again, right? Then you can start to test these new products and say, hey, do we want to start to gradually implement this? But it isn't so quick as like, oh, we're just going to introduce a new product. It's like, yo, to the whole business model, how difficult is it? Because you start introducing this new thing, and now it takes us forever to produce it and make it, and we're exhausted, and we're actually losing money. So for those of you food entrepreneurs out there, you product entrepreneurs out there, right? I encourage you to try to stay as lean as possible early on, because you don't want to have crazy overhead, right? And also, it's going to be super stressful, right? I can only imagine Yolanda trying to bake cakes and cookies and everything else. So, in my advice, right, pick one or two good products, right, and nail the systems around those two.
And that is something that we were discussing in terms of it. So, like to the wholesale, there's usually just only two products. So let's take, for instance, Making It in Michigan is an annual summit that coming up, and the buyers are there, distributors are there, and then we, as you can choose to be a vendor so that you can get in front of them, right? You don't need to have 6 products on the table for them to consider. It comes to the restaurants that we're only 2 things: the cheesecake, which all of the wholesalers order, right? The cookies, the cheesecake and the cookies, even though we have a far bigger variety.
Got it. Well, at this point, we're going to transition to book recommendations for our viewers. Yolanda, what book rec do you have for our viewers today?
So I asked one is by is a book by Remy Edeleke. It's called Transfer. Oh, amazing. Mike, you might remember at the one of the fly-ins he was a speaker. He was also on the speaker roster. But it's and us knowing that as entrepreneurs, we are constantly doing rounds of transformation. And then the other book is The Value of Nothing. I'm to this side, but it's been highly recommended. It just talks about around economics and spend money on something that is really not bring the process.
Love it. I think my book recommendation, let me pull it up here. Oh, yeah. And The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. This is a book I go out of my way to at least read or listen to once a year. And it tells the story of a shepherd boy who goes off to find his personal legend, this journey, his treasure. And what I find, the reason I keep coming back to this book is because it's really a metaphor for life. And at certain points, particularly those of us that are entrepreneurs, right? We set out on this journey, right? And then life happens, right? Where our business might not be to the point where we want it to be or whatever. So then you got to get a job or you got to do something, right? To kind of keep food on the table. And then you build yourself back up and you can make that decision. Hey, do I keep on moving forward on that journey or do I not? And so it's like little stuff like that that's throughout the book. And I've just find it super like therapeutic, really introspective to allow some self-awareness. For anybody that's done anything hard, whether it's write a book, do a podcast, maybe want to write your own screenplay, right? Like The Alchemist is really inspirational. And it's a fable. It's actually fiction, but it's been just such a transformational book for me over the last, I want to say 12, 13 years. I mean, when did that first time I read the book? When I was an infantry officer, when I got to my first unit, first time 8th Marines, in Camp Lejeune. That was one of the books I read. And ever since then, it's probably my most recommended book. So when I make a book recommendation, 9 times out of 10 is probably going to be The Alchemist. And that's one of my most gifted ones too. So when I'm buying people stuff, I tend to buy that book. So if you're on your own journey, chasing your personal legend, whatever that is, again, writing a book, doing a podcast, whatever, you're going to get tons of value out of the book. So I want you to check out The Alchemist. Additionally, doing some great episodes of Transition. Right. I know some of y'all are thinking about raising capital, right? If y'all probably watch Shark Tanks and like, oh, I need capital for my business. But to really understand what venture capitalists are looking for, I want to encourage you to listen to the last 2 episodes of the Transition. I had Darren Burrow from Veteran Ventures Capital on, and we released his episode last week. This week, I'm releasing Brandon Shelton from Task Force Capital. TFX. Was it TFX? I wrote it down. Task Force Capital. And he's going to share some contrarian advice for those of you that are interested in pursuing entrepreneurship. and particularly those that are interested in raising capital. So we're doing some great ecosystem mapping, and that's one of the many benefits of having that platform for you all is to help you connect the dots, because I take it for granted that like I've been in this ecosystem for so long that I know who the key players are. Or if you say, hey, I'm looking for this kind of business, go here. If I'm looking for co-working space, go here and stuff, etc. And so I'm bringing all that to you on the Transition Podcast, thanks to the support of MetLife. So be sure to check that out. Subscribe to the Transition newsletter as well. If there's a topic you want me to cover on the show or in the newsletter, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn at Iron Mike Steadman, or message me directly, mike.steadman@bunkerlabs.org. Yolanda, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. We'll be sure to include a link to your website and Instagram in the link as well. Until next time, everyone, peace, love, and have a great rest of your week.